Welcome to Hope for the Caregiver here on American Family Radio. This is Peter Rosenberger. This is the program for you as a family caregiver. More than 65 million of us right now in this country are serving as a family caregiver. Maybe you're taking care of aging parents, special needs kids, somebody with a trauma, somebody with a disease, somebody with alcoholism, somebody with addiction, somebody with mental illness. The list is long, and the number of caregivers is growing, of people who are doing this without pay, without training, just armed with love and a sense of duty and responsibility, and sometimes a goofy sense of humor like mine. I hope you have a sense of humor as you do this, and hopefully by listening to this program, you will see that it's okay to laugh and to have a good time and to be joyful even in the midst of this. We got plenty of tears. Do you laugh? Do you cut up? I constantly tease Gracie, and we just live life. I mean, we're living with all kinds of craziness. I was at the hospital with her down in Denver a couple of weeks ago. We had to go down there for some exams and tests and so forth, and we're facing some other things. But we had this series of appointments and consultations. We had one that was like right after lunch, and then she had a CT scan that was scheduled for 6 p.m. that night. Now, we're staying across the street from the hospital in a hotel, and I just didn't want to have to haul Gracie back across the street and then come back, and it's cumbersome and tiresome for her, painful for her. So we headed down to the CT area at the hospital and to see if we could get pushed up on the docket. And the lady was very nice. She said, "I'm getting ready to leave, but I'm putting you down. I think we can do this. My replacement will be here shortly. Why don't you guys go down and have a cup of coffee? I want to see if I can put this through and just let him know when you come back." And so we went down and got some coffee, which, on a side note, is never as easy as you think, because when there's a menu, Gracie wants to read the menu, and then she wants to combine things on the menu to form a new menu, what I like to refer to as the Gracie menu, where since they have a kitchen, or since they have the equipment, why not combine it the way I want it, is kind of her thought process. And I'm like, just order from the menu. I even when we go to McDonald's, she wants to read the menu. I go to McDonald's, I know the menu forwards, backwards. I can just name it. I can get behind the counter and work. I understand the menu at McDonald's. It has not changed drastically over the years. There's some things they keep adding that are ancillary, but to the core McDonald's user, yeah, the menu's still the same. Not with Gracie. She wants to, well, can you add this to this salad, or can you do this? And so I'm sitting there at the coffee shop, just, banging my head on the counter while she does her thing. And the poor barista behind the counter is looking, that's my life. So we got the coffee she wanted, and it was quite good, I must say. And we headed back down, and there's a new guy at the counter, just like the woman had said. And so I went up to this young man, and I said, "I was told that if we gave you $5 and a picture of B. Arthur, we could get in a little early for this CT scan." Well, and I said it with a straight face. And Gracie's over there rolling her eyes at me. And this guy's looking at me like I'm just from another planet. And I didn't care, because it made me laugh. It didn't really make her laugh that much, but it made me laugh. She didn't laugh because it wasn't funny. Let me be fair. She didn't laugh because she's used to this and it's tiresome to her. But I promise you, if you got her still and quiet, you say, "Gracie, was that funny?" She would say, "Yeah, it was funny. I just, I've heard it all." But I figured, we spend so much time in hospitals and doctor's offices and imaging places and labs. If I stop living life and being who I am, and Gracie stopped being who she is in these places, what kind of life would we have? We're just who we are. We've grown used to this. Yes, these are serious places where serious things happen, but it's also a job site for people. It's a job for people. And they, just like you at your workplace, they want to be able to enjoy their day, and they get enough misery there. Speaking of misery, I always find the airport to be a challenging place, particularly when you have somebody that is disabled pushing through the TSA and particularly at the Denver airport. And I'm sorry, whoever's the senior guy at the TSA at the Denver airport, if you're listening to this program, there's some opportunities for improvement. Let me just say that, okay? There's some opportunities for improvement. And I struggle going through there. But by the time I get to the gate, I'm a little bit tired. And we were flying back Southwest. They have a straight flight from Denver to Bozeman. And the people at Southwest are always so great. And I appreciate their humor and all the other things they do to make the flight enjoyable. Flying is not what it used to be. And Gracie, by the way, still dresses up. I do okay, but she actually dresses up to fly. She knows it's old school, but she doesn't care. She said, my grandmother used to always say, you look nice when you go out in public and on planes and so forth. And so she does. But the folks at Southwest are always very, very kind to us. And she boards first and then exits last. We're always the last ones off the plane, but she's always the first on. She requires just a little bit extra time to get on. And so we're going down the jetway, and I usually have the bags. Now, let me give you some background on this. Gracie is the only person I know that has a wheelchair with a trailer hitch on it. She requires so much carry-on and paraphernalia that goes with her. And I'm like her Sherpa, and I'm carrying all these things. And I was so proud of her. And if you ever get a chance to meet her, I want you to tell her how proud you are of her, that we were able to consolidate 2 nights worth of stuff for her into a carry-on bag, a large purse for her, and a small laptop bag for me. And we were able to do it. That took 30-something years of conditioning to help her learn to pack light. Now, that doesn't sound like very much, but you try carrying that while pushing a wheelchair, okay? It could get a little bit gnarly. And I'll have all the bags stacked. So like I have a roller bag, and then I'll have Gracie's other bag, or then maybe I could even fit a third, but I'll wrap that around my neck if I have to. And then I'll wheel that bag with my left hand, and with my right hand, I'll hold Gracie's hand, and I'll drag her through the airport. Well, she's in a wheelchair, and so she's, rolling. We're getting a pretty good clip, too. I mean, her hair's blowing in the breeze, particularly on those marble floors instead of the carpet. But then there's those clueless people aimlessly rolling around. I'm saying, on your left or on your right, and get out of the way. And so Gracie thought about putting a harpoon on the front of it, but I thought, no, that's not good. I'm just kidding. So we're at the gate, and the Southwest gate officer was so kind and said, can I help you with your bags? Well, immediately, and I don't know if I'll probably get in trouble for saying this on the air, I referenced a movie that maybe some of you have seen. There's a great scene. I'm sorry. In Young Frankenstein, when Gene Wilder's character said to Marty Feldman's character, Igor, says, you get the bags. You want some help with the bags? And he said, you get the blonde, I'll get the one with the turban. And if you haven't seen it, don't worry about it. But it was, I used that line, and I said that to the Southwest. She said, do you want some help with the bags? I said, you get the blonde, I'll get the one with the turban. And it made me laugh. Gracie, not so much. The Southwest attendant had no clue to what I was saying, but it made me laugh, and it helped make a difficult time a little bit more tolerable for me. And so I don't even know why I'm sharing this with you guys. You're probably looking at me like, what's the matter with you? But I'm used to that phrase. People have asked me that over the years. I've been a caregiver for over 36 years, and I've been through my share of airports and struggling with wheelchairs and everything else. And if I want to laugh and say something goofy to the gate officer at an airport, or if I want to say something stupid to a guy that's scheduling CTs, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to go for it. It's okay to live life. It's okay to laugh. And you know what else? It's okay for you to be safe. And we're going to talk about that when we come back from the break. This is Peter Rosenberger. This is Hope for the Caregiver. We'll be right back. As caregivers, we have so many things that hit us all the time, and we can't always nail these things down by ourselves. Who helps you? What does that look like? I'm Peter Rosenberger, and I want to tell you about a program that I've been a part of now for almost 10 years, and that's Legal Shield. For less than $30 a month, I have access to a full law firm that can handle all kinds of things. If I get a contract put in front of me, if I got a dispute with something, doesn't matter. I've got a full law firm that can help me navigate through all the sticky wickets that we as caregivers have to deal with. Power of attorney, medical power of attorney, will, every bit of it. As a caregiver, we need someone who advocates for us, and that's why I use Legal Shield. So go to caregiverlegal.com. Look on the left-hand side where it says Legal Shield. Just select it. It turns purple. It says pick a plan. It'll give you some options. If you don't need any of those, don't select them. Check out and be protected starting today. That's caregiverlegal.com. Welcome back to Hope for the Caregiver. This is Peter Rosenberger. This is the program for you as a family caregiver. We're so glad that you're with us. How are you feeling? How are you doing? HopeForTheCaregiver.com. There's a little form there. You can send it to us. Let us know what's on your mind. And also, while you're out online, go to our Facebook group. Go to our Facebook page. You can like that, follow along with that. And then our Facebook group, we post a lot of things in there. Other caregivers post that they're struggling with, and maybe you could offer some insight to another caregiver. I administer the group. I keep it from going off the rails, so please take advantage of it. Go out and join along and offer your insights, or maybe you can glean some insights from others who have gone through similar things that you have been through. HopeForTheCaregiver.com is where it all starts. Plenty of stuff for you to take advantage of out there. Don't do this by yourself. Friends don't let friends caregive alone, okay? I wanted to address something. I had a conversation with somebody this week, a listener, who reached out, and we ended up having a conversation about this topic. She's got some family dynamics that are pretty intense and involves a brother who's had a lengthy history of drug abuse. She's making some decisions, but she's, feeling all the things that we all feel in situations like that. When you have to make the hard decisions, you feel guilty, you feel kind of alone in that, you feel all the different things. You know the drill. You know what goes on with us as caregivers and the conflicting feelings we have. However, she is very unsettled in this. And I asked her, I said, what is the goal for you? We talked about that a little bit, and we finally landed on this place where her safety is paramount. She doesn't feel safe. And she's got this house with her mother. She owns the house. Her mother lives with her, but her brother's also been there. And he comes and goes as he pleases. And she can't seem to get him out of there. And in this day and age how hard it is to evict someone. And her mother has significant dementia, and it looks like it may be time to go into a memory care unit, and she's going to do that and then sell the house. And that way she doesn't have to go through the eviction process, but she's going to make sure her mother's cared for. And then she wants out. She wants to be done with her brother and another sibling and not have that drama, knowing that her mother's safe, that she's not at the mercy, and they can't come and go in an assisted living like they do at this house. But the bottom line is she doesn't feel safe. And I assured her that her safety is paramount. Happiness is not the goal. We're not going to feel good about a lot of these things. And the goal is not to be happy or comfortable or any of those things. But safety is non-negotiable for you as a caregiver. And that means your financial safety, your emotional safety, your physical safety. All of those things are absolutely critical to you as a caregiver, because if you're not safe, how can you be a good caregiver? If your situation is precarious financially, how can this continue? Now, that doesn't mean you have to be wealthy, but that does mean you have to find solid ground. And sometimes that means scaling way back. and reducing your debt load, reducing your outflow. As we talked about last week on the program, simplifying your life, looking at things that you really just don't need. What do you absolutely have to have? And then how can you cut from anything else? Understand that when you're a caregiver, you're more or less in survival mode all the time. And your situation is tenuous. If you have the physical safety issues going on, that has to come first. You've got to physically be safe. And if you've got a family member who has a drug problem or a drinking problem, they're abusive, they're unpredictable, all those kinds of things where you just don't feel safe in your own home, that's got to change. And so I walked her through the process of doing her due diligence prior to this, making sure she has all of her legal documents in hand, making sure she's done all of her homework as far as the memory care center for her mother, all the things that need to happen. Quietly go behind the scenes, get all of that done, and then make the appointment to confront her brother and say, this is what we're going to do. And she's actually offered a pretty generous thing for her brother, who is basically penniless, but he's not a young guy. So he's got some real issues from drug use and everything else. And she's made a pretty generous offer, but it's non-negotiable. She doesn't feel safe, and she doesn't need to have him encroaching upon her life. Now, how many of you all have something like that going on where you just don't feel safe? What do you do about it? And the decisions are not going to be easy. There's just no way around it. It's going to be a hard decision. But you serve yourself well when you've done all of your due diligence. Make sure you have all the legal documentation that you need. And if you can't afford a lawyer, there are services out there. I subscribe to one myself that provides me legal care, for an easy monthly fee, less than $30 a month. And it's full access to a full attorney firm, anything I need, power of attorney, all that kind of stuff. But all of those things, you do yourself a favor by having your homework done so that when you're having to make that hard decision, you're not just doing this in a vacuum. You're not just doing it arbitrarily. You've got X, Y, Z laid out for you. And then when she sits down with her brother to have this conversation, I recommended strongly that she have someone there, potentially from law enforcement, to be there and pay him, off-duty cop, something, to be there to protect her, to keep this thing from going off the rails. If you need to serve with some type of restraining order or whatever, it's best to put that in the hands of law enforcement. When you are dealing with somebody who has a history of drug abuse, any type of substance abuse, it can go sideways really quick. So it's always best that you've done what is necessary for you to be safe. And yes, it's unpleasant. Every bit of this is unpleasant. But it's not as unpleasant as you being assaulted. It's not as unpleasant as you being injured or worse. And that's a very real possibility for many families. There's that unstable element in so many families, particularly dealing with substance abuse or mental illness. You're not dealing with a well person. You're dealing with somebody with an impairment by definition. And if they go berserk, what are you going to do? And it's not just like this. This happened to be a case where a woman is dealing with her brother. But I also have a very close friend who's dealing with his sister, who's got a lengthy history of some very, very troubling mental health behaviors. When it comes to violent behavior from somebody abusing alcohol or drugs or somebody with a mental health history. Gender is not the factor. The impairment is the factor. And it's important for you to do what is necessary for you to be safe. Okay? Not comfortable, not happy, but safe. Are you safe? And that's why it's important for us to think this way. And then let's also think about what is safe financially. Making sure you know where all the ownership papers are, where all the mortgage information, power of attorney, all of those things, whatever you need, make sure you know where it is. The more you know, the safer you will be because you will have things in order and you can produce them financially so that you're not caught unawares, that taxes are up to date, filing for taxes and so forth, that you can talk to medical providers of your loved one, that you've done all the necessary steps for this, that you know where the will is. You know the old statement, where there's a will, there's a family member. Well, what if that family member is impaired? As in the case of this woman with her brother, what do you think he wants to do with money? This guy's got a lengthy history of substance abuse. He's jobless and really has been a troubled soul for a very long time that has left a trail of carnage in his wake. Giving him unfettered access to money just because the legal documents weren't in place, is that a good idea? So these are things that we can do to help us feel safe, and then also safe spiritually. Where are you going with this spiritually? When I think of safety, I always think of Proverbs 18:10. God's name is a place of protection. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run into it and are safe. Good people can run there and be safe in the name of the Lord. But what does that even mean? And when we anchor ourselves in God and trusting in His provision for us, He gives us that clarity of thought, that calmness to be able to make these important decisions. Remember last week's program, I talked about making decisions from a place of calmness and safety. You belong to God. If you're in Christ, you belong to Him. And you can make those decisions in great safety. You don't have to be freaking out. You don't have to be in any way out of a sense of desperation and panic. That's not of God. Who is the author of confusion? And I think this is the path for us as believers, that we can make those decisions from a place of calmness and trust in His provision, His wisdom, His insights. All of those things play into our decision making. What did Paul say in Philippians chapter 4, verse 6? Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your request be made known to God. Here it is. And the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. That sounds an awful lot like safety, doesn't it? You make much better decisions when you feel safe and when you recognize that you're safe in Christ. So for those who are struggling with physical safety because of these kinds of things, let's start with their spiritual safety and then let that extend to all our decision making. Get your legal documents in a row, and if you have to get law enforcement involved, you've already done your homework. That's the way we do it.
Peter Rosenberger. He's been a caregiver since the Cold War.